Welcome back to Ultimate Reddit Drama. We're incredibly grateful for your support before we begin. Today's tale, tell us which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience now. Let's dive into today's story. The soft twilight of the evening had begun to settle in the room. Dim rays of light filtered through the window, casting streaks on the floor. But the darkness in Ethan Carter's mind was far denser than any evening shadow. He sat at the dining table, staring at the coffee in front of him, but his thoughts were elsewhere, stuck on the conversation that had ended just moments ago. "I just don't feel happy." Madison had said it so easily, as if those words alone were enough to explain everything. No fight, no argument, no concrete reason, just that one sentence. Ethan had studied her carefully. Had he done something wrong? Had something changed? Was she stressed about something? But to every question, Madison's answer had been the same. "I don't know. It just feels that way." For the first time, Ethan felt like a stranger in his own home. Taking a deep breath, he had asked, "So what can we do to fix this?" Madison had shrugged with mild frustration, as if it wasn't her responsibility to figure it out. "I don't know. Maybe I just need some time. Just give me some space." He had wanted her to fight, to argue, to tell him what was wrong. But there was a coldness in her words, as if she herself wasn't sure what she wanted. Ethan had looked into her eyes. Once, those eyes had been his whole world. But today, they were empty. He had nodded. "All right, whatever you need, you'll have it." He had refused to fight this battle. For the first few days, he threw himself into saving the relationship. He tried giving her more time. He planned dinners at her favorite restaurant. He tried to remind her of everything they had built together, the countless nights they had stayed up talking, the laughter-filled moments they had shared. But nothing worked. Madison would brush him off with a faint smile every time. But the sparkle in her eyes, the one that used to be there, was gone. Slowly, Ethan started realizing that he was exhausting himself for something that might have already ended. And then, one night, everything changed. As always, he was in the kitchen, setting up their dinner plates, when he noticed Madison laughing while talking on the phone. A strange, unsettling suspicion flickered in his mind. He knew her. He knew how she laughed. But not like this. Without saying a word, he walked to their bedroom. That night, he made a decision. If someone had to decide whether this relationship would survive or not, why should it only be him? The next day, he shut everything down. He stopped asking if she was okay. He no longer went out of his way to make her feel special. He stopped trying. And that was the moment everything began to change. Now he wasn't the man who constantly tried to win her back. Now he was focused on himself, and Madison didn't like that. At first, she tried to ignore it. She thought maybe Ethan was just upset, that in a few days he would start caring again. But that didn't happen. Now Ethan was coming home late, and Madison didn't care. Until she did. Now she was the one asking, "Where were you?" "Just out," Ethan would reply in a calm voice. One night, as he sat on the couch reading a book, Madison sat down beside him. "You seem different," she said softly. Ethan looked up from his book. "I'm just giving you the space you asked for." Madison fell silent. That was not the answer she had expected. She had assumed Ethan would try to win her back, that he would pull her closer. But now, she was the one slipping away. A few days later, the shift became even clearer. Now she was texting him, when before she used to ignore his messages. Now she was getting annoyed when he went out without telling her. Now she was the one asking, "Do you still love me?" And something inside Ethan changed even more. Now he wanted her to feel that pain, the same pain she had given him. And then, The night came that revealed everything. Madison's phone was lying on the couch's side table while she went to the kitchen to get water. Ethan glanced at it. He had never felt the need to check her phone before. But tonight, his eyes lingered on the screen. A message flashed. "I miss you. When can I see you again?" Ethan's breath caught in his throat. She wasn't afraid of losing him. She was keeping him as a backup. The reason she had asked for space was something else entirely. She wanted an option with someone else, but she also wanted the guarantee of Ethan's love. But now, as she realized Ethan was no longer chasing her, she was the one losing everything. Ethan didn't say anything that night. He didn't ask Madison any questions. He didn't try to find out who she had been with, because now it didn't matter. That night, he made a decision. He wasn't going back. Now it was his turn to show who was really winning this game. The night grew darker, but there was no sleep in Ethan's eyes. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, but his mind kept echoing the same message over and over again. "I miss you. When can I see you again?" Every word felt like a dagger piercing through his heart. But instead of pain, there was now an eerie calm within him. He finally understood. This relationship had become nothing more than a one-sided battle. Madison never really wanted space. She just wanted a safe backup. The game had changed. In the morning, as he was getting ready, Madison watched him with a strange expression. "You've been so quiet lately," she said softly. Ethan simply smiled. "Just giving you the space you asked for." A flicker of nervousness crossed Madison's face. She wasn't comfortable with this silence. She had expected Ethan to explode in anger, to demand answers, to fight, maybe even to beg. But Ethan was calm, and that was what unsettled her the most. That day, Ethan went to work, but this time, not just to bury himself in work. He was ready to reinvent himself. He started focusing on himself. He hit the gym, reconnected with old friends. He no longer waited for Madison's texts. He was now reshaping his own life. And that's when Madison's anxiety started growing. Now, when Ethan came home, she started asking questions. "Why are you coming home so late? Where did you go?" The things that never used to bother her were now making her restless. One evening, while Ethan was out with his old friends, Madison texted him, "What time will you be home?" For the first time, he didn't reply. When he returned home, he found Madison sitting in the living room waiting for him. "Why didn't you answer my text?" Ethan took off his jacket, untied his shoes, and let out a deep breath. "Why would I?" His response was so cold that Madison hesitated for a moment. "Because," she started, but she had no real answer. Ethan smirked. "Because now you want to know where I am?" He leaned slightly closer. "What happened?" "I thought you needed space." The worry on Madison's face was obvious. "You're ignoring me now," she whispered. Ethan let out a quiet chuckle, shaking his head. "No, I'm just respecting your wishes." "You still love me, don't you?" Her voice was barely audible, like she wasn't sure she even wanted to hear the answer. Ethan looked at her, his eyes cold and unreadable. Does that question even matter now? Madison hadn't expected that response. There was unease in her eyes. He was still the same man, but he was no longer hers. And then came the day when everything became painfully clear. Ethan and Madison were having dinner together, the first time they sat down for a formal conversation. Madison took a sip of her wine and said, "I think we should try again." Ethan looked at her silently. "Why?" Madison averted her gaze. "Because we've come too far, Or is it because you finally realized I'm happy without you?" His question was so direct, so piercing, that Madison held her breath for a moment. Then came the moment that erased every last doubt in Ethan's mind. Madison finished her wine, placed her phone on the table, and walked to the kitchen. Ethan wasn't interested. He didn't care anymore. But then, a message flashed on her screen. You still haven't told him? This time, there was no room for doubt. The message was from the man for whom Madison had asked for space. Until now, Ethan had treated this as a game. But this wasn't a game anymore. It was a conclusion. That night, he didn't ask questions. He didn't argue. He simply decided he was done playing along. As he was getting ready for bed, Madison approached him and softly asked, "Can we go to dinner tomorrow?" Ethan looked up. "No, I'm busy." Madison's face fell. "When will you be free?" "Never." He had moved on completely. Now there was only one person still trapped in this relationship. Madison. Then came the final night, the moment when everything ended. Ethan was putting on his jacket when Madison stopped him. "Where are you going?" Her voice carried a trace of desperation. "Out," Ethan said casually. "With who?" He smiled, looking into her eyes. "Why does it matter to you?" Shock flickered across Madison's face. "I don't want us to fall apart." Ethan turned to her, his eyes devoid of emotion. "We didn't fall apart. You ended this. I'm just accepting it now." Madison's throat went dry. "Are you going to leave me?" Ethan's voice was cold. "I had already lost you. I just finally realized it." The game was over. Madison now understood her mistake, but it was too late for regrets. Ethan was no longer the one who needed to stay. Madison was now the one feeling the pain she had once given him. Now the decision was no longer hers. It was Ethan's, and the choice he made was about to change everything. Ethan zipped up his jacket and stepped toward the door, but Madison moved in front of him, blocking his way. Her eyes held panic. She tried to hide it, but her trembling fingers gave her away. "Are you really leaving me?" Her voice was broken, as if she still couldn't believe that Ethan was no longer the man who always cared for her. Ethan took a deep breath. There was no anger on his face, no pain, just an eerie sense of peace. "Madison, I already left." His words cut like a sharp blade. Madison's eyes widened, her breath caught in her throat. She reached out, placing her hands on his wrist. "We can fix this. We should give it another chance." Ethan gently pulled his wrist away. "You take chances when there's something left to save. But you ended this yourself." Tears welled up in Madison's eyes. "I know I messed up, but that doesn't mean we're over." Ethan's gaze hardened. "No, Madison. You lost me the moment you assumed I would always wait for you." Silence filled the room. Madison stood frozen, as if her entire world was crumbling beneath her feet. "Is there really nothing left for you?" Her voice was soft, trembling with desperation. Ethan let out a quiet laugh, but there was no joy in it, only a bitter truth. "Maybe there was, but you killed it. When you asked for space, you never realized I would actually give it to you. And now that you see I'm not coming back, you're scared. But it's too late now." Tears streamed down Madison's face. "Please, just listen to me once," she pleaded, her voice filled with helplessness. But Ethan shook his head. "There's nothing left to say." Madison's heart pounded. Ethan had always cared for her. He had always put her needs above everything else. He was always the man who did everything to save their relationship. But now, he had changed. He was no longer the man she was certain would always be there. Now, he didn't care. Madison felt a growing panic because for the first time, Ethan had left her behind. "Is there someone else in your life?" Her voice was laced with jealousy now. Ethan didn't answer. He only smiled slightly. "Does it matter?" Madison's face burned with frustration. "Yes, it matters." Now she was asking the same questions Ethan once longed to ask. But now, he didn't even feel the need to answer. It used to matter, he said, but not anymore. Madison wanted to yell, to argue, to convince him that this wasn't all her fault. But she knew that no words, no excuses, no explanations could change the fact that she was the one who had pushed Ethan to this point. You never thought I'd actually leave, did you? She remained silent. You thought I'd always chase after you, always care, always accept whatever you decided. But now, you see me happy without you. And that's what's hurting you the most, isn't it? Tears spilled down Madison's cheeks. Am I nothing to you now? A faint glimmer appeared in Ethan's eyes, but it wasn't pity. It was the light of realization. You were everything to me, Madison. But then, you taught me how to live without you. And that was the harshest truth of all. Madison had always believed she was Ethan's world. But now, Ethan no longer needed her in his. So what now? Ethan pulled his car keys from his pocket. Now I'm going to live my life, without your shadow over me. Madison's lips trembled as if she wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. Can I change your mind? Ethan looked into her eyes, and for the first time, she saw only peace. No love, no longing, just peace. No, Madison. You already lost me. Ethan stepped out the door. Madison stood frozen, shattered, and helpless. The space she had once asked for had now become her punishment. Now she wanted back everything she had walked away from. But that chance was gone. Madison, sobbing, picked up her phone and typed out a message to Ethan. Please, come back. I want to fix this. But no reply came. Because the game was over. Ethan had given her space. And now, letting her drown in her regret was the only right thing to do. In the silence of the night, Madison stared at her phone, her fingers hovering over the screen, waiting. But no reply. The message had been seen, but Ethan didn't respond. Her heartbeat quickened. For the first time, she felt herself losing control over the one thing she had always assumed she could control, this relationship. She typed another message. Ethan, please talk to me. We should give this another chance. Still, no response. Madison slammed her phone onto the table, trying to steady her breathing. She still couldn't fully process what was happening. How? How was this the same man who once did everything for her? Who couldn't live without her? Now he was completely ignoring her. How could he bear this? Because now Ethan had completely changed. At his apartment, Ethan's phone buzzed beside him. He saw Madison's messages but didn't react. He knew this was the greatest revenge, doing exactly what she had never expected. He wouldn't reply. He wouldn't seek explanations. He wouldn't go back. Now Madison had to burn in the realization of just how badly she had destroyed herself. Over the next few weeks, something else changed. At first, Madison was furious. She texted, called, even tried reaching out through mutual friends. How can you be this heartless? Do our years together mean nothing to you? Did you ever even love me? But when she received no answer, her anger turned into something else. Now she was afraid. One day, Madison suddenly showed up at Ethan's apartment. She knocked on the door multiple times, but there was no response from inside. Finally, when Ethan opened the door, his eyes held that same calm coldness. Madison? His voice carried no warmth, just formality. We need to talk, she said quickly. Please, just 5 minutes. Ethan looked at her for a moment, considering. Then he opened the door slightly but didn't step aside to let her in. Speak. His tone was flat. A jolt of shock ran through Madison. This was the man who once hung on to her every word, who used to read her every emotion like an open book. Now he stood before her like she was a stranger. Ethan, I know I made a mistake, she said quietly. Ethan let out a dry chuckle. There was no amusement in it. And now you finally understand that? Madison felt a lump forming in her throat. I never truly wanted to lose you, Ethan's eyes remained cold. But you did. No, we can fix this. No, Madison. Ethan met her gaze. There's nothing left to fix. That was the final blow. Tears welled up in Madison's eyes. So it's really over? Her voice trembled. Ethan's response was steady, unwavering. It ended a long time ago. You're just now accepting it. Madison refused to believe it. So am I really nothing to you now? For a brief moment, Ethan's eyes flickered with the remnants of old memories. But then, he slowly shook his head. Not anymore. Because now, I've moved on. And that was when Madison truly realized it. This wasn't an emotional reaction of anger. Ethan was really gone. And the most painful part? He didn't care anymore. As the door shut in front of her, Madison remained standing there. She had no more words, no more excuses. Now she felt the same pain she had once inflicted on Ethan. And now, that was her punishment. Final message. If someone asks you for space, give it to them. And when they realize they've lost you, let them drown in their regret.